Hello and welcome to Ferguson Library Presents Microsoft Intermediate PowerPoint, or Intermediate Microsoft PowerPoint here with Ferguson Library. I'm Frank Skornia. I'm the digital librarian for Adult and Information Services at the Ferguson Library, so I handle a lot of our computer technology training, as well as I'm a reference librarian at the library. So tonight, welcome to this class here on our intermediate PowerPoint. One of the things you just want to kind of do before, as I kind of go into my introduction, if you haven't already, is go to the website right here above my head, fergusonlibrary.org/online-tech-classes. And what that will do is that will bring you to this page here, which has information about our online technology class series that we're offering here. Right up here at the top of the page, we have the class schedule, so you can see the past classes and links to the videos for those classes. So if you've missed any of our Microsoft Office classes that I've done in September and October so far, you can go back and rewatch the class by just clicking on the link here. And then here's our schedule for upcoming classes here. There's 3 more classes after this. Next week, I'm going to be doing Microsoft Office Suite Integrated, which looks at ways of using Microsoft Word, Excel, and PowerPoint all together as kind of a greater whole. The following week on Tuesday, I'm going to be doing Introduction to Video Editing. We're going to be looking at using the free Lightworks video editing software. And so if you want to kind of learn the basics of doing some video editing, that's a good class to kind of jump into. And then that same week, Wednesday, October 28th. So this one's on a Wednesday. I'm going to be doing a class on how to record your computer using free open source software. Back in August, I did a class on live streaming, similar to what I'm doing now with you here onto YouTube. This one here is going to be a very similar class, but instead of sending like what you're doing out to the internet, it's looking at how to like record like things like tutorials and actions and stuff that you're doing on your computer if you want to kind of record things on there. So those are what's the classes coming up. Further on this page, if you scroll down, you get to the information where we have our online technology classes or class materials and resources here. So over on the left, we have the links to all of the class materials. And so what you'll want to do for this class is you'll want to come down here to Intermediate Microsoft PowerPoint. Click on that there and it'll open up the section here. And there will be 2 different files that you want to download here. One of them is going to be the exercise handout, which I realize I need to open up so I can show you. Which will open up this file here, which is a PDF file, which will have the exercises that we're working on through tonight's class, as well as some information to kind of continue your further and study at the end. The second one is a PowerPoint file that I've already created, so we'll have some things that we can work on as we're working with working through the different exercises tonight. If you have any questions through the course of this class, what you'll want to do is you can either ask them in the chat box that is either to the right of the video or below the video, depending on how large you have your YouTube video. Or if you don't want to sign into Google or YouTube to be able to ask questions there, you can come here to the website online-tech-classes. Right over here on the right is a chat room. And you can come in here and you can then type your questions right here in the box. Type your questions here. Hit enter, and then I will see your questions and I will answer them as when I see them. What you are seeing a slight delay from where I'm currently presenting. So if I seem to kind of continue on after you ask your question, don't worry, I will see it and I will kind of go back and answer it when I think there's a good time, or if I see it, I'll answer it. So, seeing my email notifications, I usually turn those off. Turn that off so you don't see those anymore. So yeah, so if you have any questions, you can either ask them in the YouTube chat or you can ask them here on the chat room here. As I said, I'm working a little bit of delay, so there will be a little bit of a difference between what you're seeing and what I'm presenting, but I will answer your questions when I see them. Finally, as most of you are probably watching this on your screen and you want to be able to follow along with the exercises, what I will do at certain points after I've demonstrated a certain set of exercises, I will pause and I will let you go practice the exercise yourself in Microsoft PowerPoint. So what I'll do is I'll explain the exercise, I'll demonstrate it, I'll walk through the steps once again, and then I'll give you the opportunity to go and practice it yourself. That's a good time to ask any questions in either of the chats, so then I'm able to see those. So that's a good time. And then if you have any questions or if you need me to repeat the steps, that's also a good time for kind of me to show those kind of exercises again. So for tonight's class, I am using Microsoft PowerPoint 365. So this is one of the newer versions of Microsoft PowerPoint. It is very similar to Microsoft PowerPoint 2016 and 2019. There should not be very much of a difference between those two. If there are any differences, if you're using one of the other versions and it doesn't seem to match up, let me know in the chats and we will figure out kind of exactly what you should be seeing. If you are using an older version, if you're using Microsoft Office 2010 or 2013, again, everything that we're doing in this class is going to be possible in those versions there. It just might look a little bit different. So again, if you seem lost or you're not finding exactly what you're looking for, let me know and I will... and we'll then figure out kind of where you are to be able to kind of follow along with those exercises there. So with that covered, let's actually get into talking about what we're going to actually do here in Microsoft Intermediate PowerPoint. So coming into this class, some of the stuff that you should already know is you should know how to create a new PowerPoint file. You should know how to save and open a saved PowerPoint file. You should know how to add text and images to a PowerPoint presentation. You should know how to change the design of your presentation, and you should know how to play your slideshow as if you're doing a presentation. These are all things that were covered in the basic PowerPoint class, which I did last week. If you do need to catch up on those skills and you want to go back, you can go rewatch the video on demand here on the Ferguson Libraries channel. What this class will cover is we're going to look at the concept of what it's called slide masters. So slide masters are, I'll talk about those when we get to that there, but we're going to be looking at slide masters. We're going to look at how to handle transitions between slides in your presentations. We're going to look at some basic animation and animating elements of your slides. And then finally, we're going to look at the presenter view. So when you present a presentation in PowerPoint, they have a really powerful view, which they call the presenter view, which gives you additional tools, allows you to be able to see notes and allows you to be able to kind of see things and do things with your presentation while you're presenting that everybody else will not see on the screen. It actually allows you to see a different view of your presentation than what everybody else is seeing. And so we're going to look at that and the ways to use that there towards the end of the class. So if there are any questions, please let me know in the chats. And so we'll get in. So as we kind of start working on the class there and such, you will want to download this exercise file here. This is a pre-made PowerPoint presentation. Oh, you can't see it because I'm not showing it on the screen. So yeah, if you come down to online-tech-classes, come here to Intermediate Microsoft PowerPoint, and you'll want to download the exercise file here. And what that will do is that will open up this intermediate kind of practice. It's just a pre-made presentation that we can use for demonstration purposes as we're working through this class here. So the first thing I want to kind of start off with tonight is we want to look at slide masters. So slide masters it's basically allows you to build a template for your presentation in a way so that if, when you want all of your slides to contain the same fonts and images, such as logos. So like if you notice like on my stream here, over on the far corner, actually, let me put my mouse so I can, over here, you can see I have the Ferguson Library logo kind of showing up there. Now, if you wanted something like that showing up on all of your slides, you can build a layout so that whenever you make a slide, it automatically puts the logo into that same place. And you can make different different layouts. Remember last week when we were talking, last week we talked about slide layouts, and I'll kind of introduce that again about there's like different ways that pieces are arranged on the slide. You can build those layouts. So say that logo can be in different places depending on what you want to use that slide for. And then you don't have to remember it. It's something that's kind of baked into the slide, so that when you pull that layout, it automatically assigns it there. So it allows you to build kind of a really effective template and make sure that all of your slides match the same template. They use the same images, they use the same fonts, and so it just kind of allows you to have consistency as you go from slide to slide instead of having to kind of build consistency after the fact. So what happens is you can then, if you ever wanted to change aspects of your slide, like say where that logo is, or what font you're using, or what color you're using, you can change them all in one place, and it will change all the slides. So if you have a presentation that's 40 or 50 slides long, you could go manually, and you could manually change every single slide, or you could use the slide masters and the layout. So it takes a little bit of pre-planning. I'm gonna throw that out there. You do have to kind of plan ahead if you want to be using this kind of thing, but it does allow you to then go in and you can tweak things, and it will affect all the slides together. So it's usually a good idea to edit your slide master and layout masters before you start to create individual slides, so that you can kind of get the design of everything the way that you want, and then you can just go in and start putting in your content with everything kind of designed around it. Because when you have the design, so like if you look at what I have here on the screen right now, you can see I have, like, there's this white space up there and there's this color bar underneath there and such. Having that design in mind when I'm starting to put in content means that I know I want to put my content more towards the top of the page, and I'll put my content on there when I'm starting to put it in. Whereas if I go in and put all my content and then change the design later, I then have to go and move where my content is so that it doesn't clash or mess with the design that I've put around it. So when you're kind of the intermediate thinking to do in Microsoft PowerPoint is to think about your design, how you want things to look and how it's going to be laid out before you go start putting in content. So you can go in and you can put in like dummy blocks of text and information so that when you get the content, you can kind of build it around it. This is all if you want to make a really good PowerPoint presentation. If you're just doing something really quick that you need to get done in half an hour and throw up and kind of do a presentation for your office, it might be a little bit much. But if you have time to prepare and you really want to make a big deal, think about design first and then move in and then add in the content later. So how do we actually start looking at the slide masters and the layout masters? Well, we do this here by going to the view menu. So if you remember when we were looking at the different classes, before I go in, let me show right here when I was talking about different layouts. And when I open this up here and such, you can kind of see the different layouts that are available right now. So there's a title slide, which has a place where the title goes and details, so like a little subtitle. There's a title and content slide, which has a place for a title on top, and then the content, whether it be an image, whether it's text, whether it's a table or a chart from Excel, goes down there. You have things like the section header here, which allows you, if you're going to have different sections. So we're going to go in like, okay, right now we're doing the slide master section of this class presentation. I could have a slide that says slide masters. So that when I get to that point in the presentation, we know what's going to be coming ahead. Things like two content. So this here has a space for a title, and it has two content pieces, whether one could be text, image, all the different kind of types of content that we put in. We looked at those last week. We put in tables, and we put in images, and we put in text. Comparison. I'm not really quite certain what that one there offers, but it's a little bit different than the two content. Title only gives you a slide that just has a space for a title, and then you can put whatever you want underneath. Blank slides. If you took my class last week, you'll remember that this is actually my favorite one to use because it gives me the most freedom with how I design my slides. Content with captions. So if you have a picture, you have a place to put like a little caption and credit underneath. Picture with caption. So these are what the layouts are. You can see the layouts have a place, and we'll see that more as we start looking into the layouts. But you can see there's a place like where the content will go, and then there's like other pieces there that kind of define what goes into that space. So if you know that if you're going to be doing a bunch of pictures, a bunch of images, and you want to be able to have that with a caption underneath, you can design a layout that makes it really easy to add images and the layouts and make them all consistent and look the same from one to the other. So how do we get in and look at the slide masters and the layout masters? So we're going to come up here to the view tab on the ribbon. So the view tab is right over here on the right. I'm going to click on view. And this is going to bring me to the different views that we have available in PowerPoint. So there's different ways of viewing your PowerPoint presentation. So if you remember, we have our content building area over here. Over here, we have kind of our slide table of contents that has the different slides. And you can see this this test presentation that I have has 5 different slides of kind of some different design things on them there. So we have a title slide. We have a slide here with a graph or a chart on it. We have a slide here with a table. We have a slide here with an image and a title on it, and then we have one here that just has kind of a bulleted list. And a lot of this here is just so that we can kind of see as we play around with different aspects, as we play around with animations and transitions and the design things, how it changes everything that we're looking at here. Okay, so now up here on the top left on the ribbon, now we're in the View tab on the ribbon. Up here on the top left, you can see we have presentation views. And so these are different views of your presentation as you're working in PowerPoint. So we have the normal view, which is what we normally see. And you can see it kind of looks like there's the slide table of contents. There's our content area. There's a little notes section down here. And I can make this bigger if I wanted to write more notes. We'll talk about more about the notes when we get later on to like the presenter's view. Then we go over here, there's outline view, which what it does is it gives us an outline of the slides there and such. So it kind of focuses on kind of organizing the slides rather than kind of giving you a preview of them there and such. So you can kind of rearrange the slides as you need. As you need to on there. There's slide sorter, which just gives you thumbnail view of the slides. So you can easily like rearrange slides as you need. While being able to see kind of a larger picture than you can with just this over here. There's the notes page, which will allow you to actually what the notes page is what this does is this allows you to design and enter in text so that you can print out your presentation. So what it'll do is it'll show an image of the slide, and then it'll have all the notes that you write about that slide there. So if you're giving presentation notes, suppose you're in a situation where you can't use presenter view and you want to have paper notes in front of you. You can print these out, and then what happens is then you'll see your slide and you'll see the notes as you can use for your notes as you're presenting on there. And then reading view is just a way to kind of view through the presentation without it being in presenter. So it just allows you to kind of read through the slide or the presentation slide by slide on there. So what I'm going to do is cancel. How do I get out of this? Go back to normal. Here we go. But what's important and what we want to look at here for this class now is we want to look over at this next section here, this next group of sections on the PowerPoint ribbon here. And so you notice that we have a slide master, we have a handout master, and then there's the note master. So what we're going to be looking at for tonight's class is we're going to be looking at this here. We're going to be looking at the slide master here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this now. And what it does is you can see now it's changed my ribbon. My ribbon now, I actually have a new tab right up here at the top that says Slide Master. So let me close and you can kind of see this is what my ribbon before. We had Home, Insert, Draw, and all of those going through. But when I go into it now, we have a new Slide Master tab that's over here on the left. And we have our Slide Master tools. So over here on the left, we have a master style, and you can see this is listed as number 1. You can have multiple master slides in in a presentation. So if you have a really big complex presentation, you can have more than one master slide. Right now in this one here, we just have one, and then underneath you can kind of see all the different layouts that are available underneath. So if I go and click on this first one here, this is, you notice when I put my mouse over it here, this tells me that this is the Concourse Slide Master. So Concourse is the name of this theme. If I go over here, themes, let's see, I think it was one of these here that I chose. What is it? Office theme, facet. You can see if I put my mouse over these here, I get different, can't figure out which one it is. Okay, actually, you know what? If I do change it to here, there we go. And then it should be here now, right? Uh-oh. Okay, I'm gonna just undo. Control Z. Oh, Control Z. There we go. Back to my my theme here. So what it is, but this is the Concourse theme. That's the name of the theme. So when I put my mouse over here, you can see I have this little tooltip over it that says Concourse Slide Master, and it tells me what slides you're using. It's used by slides 1 to 5. Now, if I had put in if I had used it for slides 2 and 4, this would then say used by slides 2 and 4, and there would be another slide master that would use 1, 3, and 5. So this here gives you just kind of information about the slide that we're working with here. And then underneath we have all the variety of layouts. Now if you remember, if I go here and go back to my home tab and I come up here to layout, you can see I have my different layouts. There's that name of the theme again, Concourse. And there's 9 different layouts that are available here. So if I go back into my Slide Master view and we look, there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There are my 9. Oh, there's more actually. They actually have like a little bit of sideways things there. So there are different layouts that are available as well too, depending on the orientation of the slide. This is actually a portrait orientation versus the landscape orientation that we have with the other slides. So you can see the different layouts that I have under there. So the top up here is where you can see once I'm in here, I can then start defining and changing things that will affect all of the different slides that have used this master here. So so these are the layout masters. You can see this is the title slide layout. It's used by slide 1. This one here is used. This title and content is used by slides 2 to 4. And then what do we have any here that use slide? Okay, and then we have the blank layout, which was used by slide 5. But here in my master slide, I can do things like I can change my master title style. So like right now, if I select this, and we're going to go to home, and so right now this is done using the Lucida Sans Unicode font. Let me see what the exercises are saying. Okay, yeah, so what I can do here is I can actually go in and let's say, so right now it's using Lucida Sans Unicode. I can go in and I can choose like a new font. So let's go in and choose, let's choose Cambria here. So I've actually changed the font that my title is using right now. And then down here, we have the different styles, text styles. And what happens is this is set up like a bulleted list, because when you usually do a presentation, you're doing kind of bullets or kind of different facets on there and different levels. So there's the first level, the second level, the third level, as we work in on like an outline. And so I can change how each of these here work. So if I want, say, my top one here, say I pose, let's make this kind of red in color, and let's make you kind of blue in color. And then we'll make you, I don't think I have anything that goes below 3, so we're gonna make you purple. No, let's make you a little bit darker blue. There we go. So you can see I can actually change those different kind of levels on there, and you can see it changes it in other places in my layout. So if I come down here, this is my, if I put my mouse over it, you can see this is my title and content layout. And you can see the changes that I made up here in my slide master are showing up here in this one as well too. So when I go in and do these changes, or when I go and look at the slides and build a slide using this content, this is how it's going to end up looking. You can see it shows here. There's so by changing the slide master, I'm actually changing all of these elements in the different layouts as well too. So you can see the pink, the blue, and the darker blue here. The text up here is a different font. So by changing it in one place, I'm changing it in all the layouts, which is then changing it in all of the slides using those layouts. Some of the things that we can edit in here is we can do things like edit theme. We can choose which theme we're using. We can choose what colors we're using. So for example, if I want to use everything here in green, let's choose something a little bit better. How about red? No, violet. Let's do the paper here. Let's do marquee. Marquee has some nice bold. Okay, so I'm going to change this here. So what I know is I'm changing the colors that the theme, the concourse theme is using. And you can see now it's changed it in all my different points here too. Though this is still showing that blue. Well, there's the blue still. I guess, oh, you know what I did? I accidentally changed that. There we go. There we go. I changed it. Oh, it's not changing it everywhere. Oh, because I had manually changed it. Okay, whatever. Onward. So I can do things like I can change the fonts, so I can change what fonts everything is using. There's a place where since I manually changed some stuff, you know what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to go back to what I did. So this is one of the nice things when you're working in PowerPoint is never worry about kind of making a mistake or something. What you can do is just constantly save when you're sure that everything's the way that you want it to do. You can undo. But you can also just close it and reopen and go back to a saved file. So I am back here into the slide master, and let's change these colors again. We're going to go back to the marquee. I want something that will change the bottom color. Yeah, we'll do red violet. There we go. And so then that goes and changes all the different kind of elements here. You can see the colors down here have all changed. I'm going to change the fonts. So instead of Lucida Sans, let's go to Times New Roman. I'm a big fan of Times New Roman, so we'll change that there. And that will change the fonts in all the other different places here. Back to my master. If I'm here, fonts, let's change this to Times New Roman again. Times New Roman, okay, that's fine. Things like different effects. So I'm not actually certain overall what that's do. It's something you kind of go in and play around with. I highly recommend going in and kind of playing around with that there. So what we can also do is we can also add new layouts to our presentation. So we can either, and actually let me go back to here, and now you can see my test presentation here. The colors down here, this used to be that kind of blue color. The font used to be different. I go here, there's the different font, there's this here. Even my graph changed colors from what it was before. My table here changed colors from what it was before. All by changing just that information in the slide master. Come down here, and this here kind of looks about the same, though the colors down here changed, the font of the title changed. So those are things that when you change the slide master, I was able to change every slide in the presentation using the slide master. I'm going to go back here, go back to the slide master. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this here, and I am going to grab you. There we go. So just so I have them kind of next to each other here, we have our, there we go. Over here we have our, and I'm kind of in the way of it there and such, I'm sorry for that, but over here we have our exercises that we're working on, and then over here you can kind of see what we're working on. So we've done this first exercise, enter the slide master view. We've examined the slide master and the layout masters. Those were these things over here on the side. And so now we're going to do exercise 3 here. We're going to create a new layout by clicking on the Insert Layout button on the ribbon. So I'm going to make this big again, and we get right up here at the top. You can see under Edit Master, I can either insert a slide master, because as I mentioned, you can have more than one slide master during your presentation. We can also insert new layouts. So as I mentioned before, we have like our 9, there's actually 11 here, but there's like the different layouts that we can have where we have content being placed, but we can insert our own for something that we want to use. So I'm going to do is I'm going to insert layout, and you can see it just sticks it down to here. And what we're going to do is we're going to, so we're going to leave the title up here because we want to have the title there. And the next exercise says insert 2 content placeholders next to each other. Okay, so actually let me just kind of go over some of the, just make sure I have the notes here, what I have. So for the theme, I was talking about the themes before. So the themes is the palette of colors, fonts, and other special effects that complement each other. So you could go through and design your own theme. You could choose all of your own unique colors. But what happens is the ones that the themes that they've selected here, and then the colors that they have here, and we're going to go back to say, we're going to just go back to Office, are things that have been designed to complement each other, to kind of look all pretty good, so that they're not clashing. It looks stylish. They have professional designers that design this here. Every theme you use in your presentation includes a slide master, which is this here, and related set of layouts. If you use more than one theme, so if you've changed themes or you have a presentation that you're using more than one theme, then you're going to have more than one slide master and a bunch of different layouts. And so the themes here, like if I go here, if I choose say like this here, is it will change all of my design things here as well too. So there's all my layouts on all of these here. In fact, this one here seems to even have more than the one I had before. Let me see if I can go back to the one I had before. Why do I do that and I can never find it here again? Why did I choose one that I don't have in here? That's odd. I'll just Control Z. Yeah, back. Okay. So yeah, so that's it. So, and then the slide layouts. So we're looking at the different layouts here. So what they do is they contain the formatting, position, and placeholder boxes for all of the content that appears on the slide. Placeholders, and let me go down to here so you can kind of see, are the dotted line containers. So that's this section around here. So you can see the dotted line around the different sections there. On slide layouts that hold such content as titles, body text, tables, charts, etc. And then each theme also contains the colors, fonts, effects, and background. The theme of a slide is in each of the different layouts as well too. So that's just one of the things that kind of keep in mind when we're looking at when you're thinking about the theme and the different layouts there. So what we're going to do is we've created this new slide here. I've created this new layout by coming up here and doing Insert Layout. And so it's created a slide here that has a place where, so there's a placeholder already in place for the title, because in most slides that you want to do, you kind of always want to have a title going across there, whether it's the title of the presentation or the title of the section or the title of the specific slide that you're showing there right now. And then we're going to insert some placeholders. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here to where it's under Master Layout, and under the Insert Playouts placeholder here, you can see like other buttons that we've seen on the ribbon before. This is a two-part button. The top one will just give me a generic content piece like what we have here. This is just a generic content piece with a bunch of different kind of content pieces in there. Or if I click the bottom part of the button, I'll be able to get a selection of the different content, different placeholder things that I can have on there. So I can have content, which is just, it can be any content. All it is I'm kind of reserving a place on the slide for that content to fit into. I can make it specific for text. I can make it specific for pictures. So if you're going to be doing a slide presentation, we're going to be doing a lot of pictures on there and such. And if you wanted to say do something where you're going to have like 3 or 4 pictures on there, and instead of like what you could do is if you want to have 3 or 4 pictures and you want them always to be in the same place, is you can design a layout for those, and what happens is then there's just a place, and instead of having to go to insert picture and then it dumps it onto the slide, it will put it into the specific places that you put. In fact, actually, you know what, I'll demonstrate that there. We have chart, table. So what I'm going to do actually is on the exercise it says insert 2 content placeholders next to each other. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to insert in a content one here. So I'm going to click on content. And now what happens is once I click on it, you notice that my cursor ends up being this little black cross signal. And what that does is that allows me to draw. So I'm going to start in my top left corner. I'm going to click and hold and drag till I get to about the size of what I want. And so what happens is if I come to here, let me actually, okay, there we go. So if I come to there, you'll notice that I get, if you remember last week during the basic PowerPoint class, I talked about the different guidelines that can be created in PowerPoint. And so this one here, for example, is now showing me there's this vertical kind of orange dotted line that's going up and down in the middle of the slide there. This is telling me that the right edge of my content placeholder that I'm drawing there and such is lined up with the right, or the center of the slide. So yeah, so I'm going to go down, and let's go down so this is just about there. Yeah, that looks good. And I'll let go. And now you can see now I now have this like content box put into place there. And if I click out, you can see I have that dotted line going around it. So what I'm going to do now actually is I'm going to insert, and the exercise says to insert 2 content placeholders. And when I send you off to do that there, you can just do 2. But I do want to demonstrate the thing I was talking about, pictures. So I'm going to do pictures. And once again, I have my little black cross icon cursor, which indicates to me that I can draw a box. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a box. And we'll make this big here, and so this is okay. This is the same size as that footer. And you can see I get those different guidelines that I had before. Let's do that, and then let's insert another one. And let's see, can I make this the same? Yep, there we go. Can I make it? Can I make it the same height? Yep, there we go. So now they're the same size. And if I move this up, actually, let's move you up a bit. And we can move you up. There we go. Yeah, there we go. So now what happens is I've now created a layout here where I will be able to put like whatever type of content I want. I can put a table here. I could put a chart. I could put text. I could put another image if I wanted to. I can put whatever I want into this section over there. And then I have two places where I can put pictures. So let's go see what this actually indicates. So I'm coming back here to the Slide Master tab, and I'm going to come over here to the right side where it says Close Master View. And so by doing this here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back into my normal presentation view, where what I'm working on is I'm not working on the overall design of the presentation. I'm working on the individual slides themselves. So I'm going to close Master View. And now you'll see actually is that I still have my same 5 slides. Everything I did has not come into effect yet. I've designed a new layout, but what I need to do now is I need to create a slide that uses that layout. So I'm going to come up here to my new slide button. I'm going to click the bottom part of new slide, and where is it? It's not there. Oh, did I not say? Oh no, custom layout. Oops, hold on. Let me go back because I forgot that we have to give it a name. Okay, so when I go click on, let's see, where did it go? Here we go. Oops. Why is it there? Why can't I give it a name? Okay. Oh, here we go. This is not something I do all that often, so I always have to kind of refresh myself about where things are and such. So you notice right up here at the top under the Edit Master, there's a rename button. So I'm going to rename that there, and we're going to do Content and Pictures. That's what we're going to call the name of this layout. Rename. There we go. So now I close, and now when I open this up there and such, you can see there's Content and Pictures. So now if I create a new slide, you can now see the design that I put in. So there's the place for the title that I did before. So I can put in the title of slide here. And then over here, I can put in kind of whatever content I want to put in. So I can put in a table, I can put in a chart, I can put in a 3D model, I can insert an icon. Let's insert an icon, why not? Just to put something in there. So we're going to put in a whiteboard. Actually, it's a billboard. Sure, yeah, insert. And so now it's inserted that into that space. But what happens is you notice it put it within the center of the space that I granted it there. So we're gonna make it a little bit bigger. And then over here, I have my 2 places to add pictures. So if I click on this here, I can then go in and I can add in a picture if I wanted to. I don't have any pictures to add right now. But that's where they would go. And what happens is now every slide that I make using this layout would have a place where I can put some content, and then I can put the pictures here, and they'd all be lined up and put into the same place. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're locked into place. I can click this and I can move it around wherever I want. So I can use the layout as a starting place for my design and then move things around if I find it necessary. Or I can use the same layout with everything kind of in place without moving it around to have a consistent design and layout throughout the rest of my slide. So that's how that kind of works. So what I'm going to do now is I've covered a lot of stuff. I've been talking for about 40 minutes. I'm going to give you about 4 minutes to go into your own presentation. Let me open this up so we can see here. Go into your own PowerPoint, and what you're going to want to do is you want to open up the intermediate PowerPoint practice that you downloaded from the online-tech-classes website. Enter the Slide Master view from the View tab. So come up here to View tab and go to Slide Master. And then what we're going to do is you're going to insert a new layout. So you're going to come up here to Insert Layout. You're going to design a layout that has 2 content placeholders. So come up here to Insert Placeholder and just choose Content, or because it's the default, you can just click the top part of the button up here. Actually, since the last thing I did was Picture, it's going to be, so you do Content and place them side by side in your presentation. Let me do it here so we can see that there. So I'm inserting a new one, Insert Content, and you just click and drag to kind of get it the size that you want. and then do the same thing again, just so that they're right next to each other. There we go. And then come back to the slide master, give it a name, just say side by side or whatever you want to call it. Rename, and then close master view. And then what you want to do is come and create a new slide using the layout. So you come in, once you're out of the master view and you're back into your normal view here, come up here where it says new slide, click the bottom part of the button, and then choose your side by side there. So let me know if you have any questions. Take about 4 to 5 minutes. We'll say 4 minutes right now, and I'll see if people need more time. If you have any questions, you can ask them in either the chats on the online-tech-classes website, or you can ask it in the YouTube chat. So just another minute. Let me know if you have any questions. All right, so that has been some practice with Slide Masters. Definitely something to kind of go back and kind of play around with on your own. Though if you do have any questions about it there, feel free to continue asking questions. We're going to move on to our next section here. Let me just see. I'm trying to get my microphone into a place so that I can actually see my keyboard while I'm working on things. So yeah, next thing we're going to be looking at here is we're going to be looking at transitions. So a slide transition is the visual effect that occurs when you move from one slide to another during presentation. So let me just go here. I'm going to quickly go into View. I'm going to go into Slideshow, and I'm going to play for beginning. And so we have my opening slide here in my test presentation. And when I go to the next slide, it just cuts to the next slide. This is what's known as a cut transition. It's actually a term from filmmaking, and when I go to the next slide, it just cuts to the next slide. There's no easy in between one slide. One slide disappears, the other one shows up into its place. So it's just a standard cut transition. But there are ways to kind of make those transitions smoother. You can do things like fades, where one slide fades away into black while the other one kind of shows up on top of each other. So that's known as a fade. You hear it in audio when you have things like a crossfade, where like the sound from one thing kind of fades down or kind of shrinks down to nothing while the other side's kind of rising up at the same time. So they kind of cross. So one's going this way, so they kind of do this kind of thing. It's kind of hard to kind of demonstrate, but so that's a fade, where one fades from the other. There's a wipe, where it seems like one slide pushes the other one off, or it kind of wipes the other one off. So like you squeegee off and the slide, you're wiping off the slide, and there's the new slide underneath. So transitions are fun, and they really kind of help kind of make your presentation more dynamic than just going jump from one slide to the next, just like doing a bunch of jump cuts. In a transition, you can control the speed, you can add sound, so you can make a whoosh sound if you wanted to. You can customize the look of the transition effects. So let's see how, let's look at how to put in a transition, and then we'll look at the ways to modify the transition. So we access the transitions by using the Transitions tab, obviously enough, on the ribbon up here on the top. So I'm going to click on Transitions, and you'll notice the main bulk of the Transitions tab on the ribbon is a huge toolbar of the variety of different transitions. And if I expand this menu, so this is one of these typical ribbon kind of things there, where I can actually scroll through different lines. There's multiple lines that are visible here, or I can open up and see them all there. So you can kind of see there's a lot of built-in transitions, and I'm sure people have built other and designed other ones out there and such. They have them organized in a way that there's the subtle transitions. So these are the ones that are kind of the most common that people use. They kind of are very kind of, as they say, they're subtle. They're not a flashy transition. They just kind of ease you from one slide into the next. And then there's the exciting ones that are kind of like some more dynamic animations going on there. So there's very drastic, kind of very exciting kind of things that more stuff will happen on the screen. And it all depends on the presentation that you're trying to do. If you're trying to do a very professional, very straightforward presentation, you'll tend to want to stick to the subtle transitions, things that, because you want people to be focused on what you're saying and what you're showing up on the screen. You don't want them to be distracted by all these kind of crazy effects, the glitter, the confetti, and all this other stuff. But if you're doing something fun, you're doing something that's going to, like a good example is like if you're doing like a slideshow for like a party, like a birthday party, and you're going to do a bunch of images, and you want to have the images pass from one to the other, or the slides to go from one to the other and kind of show off kind of fancy things. It's not so much the content, and the situation there is not one where you want to have people concentrating so much. You can have fun. You can use some of these really exciting transitions. And I really encourage you kind of get in there, get into your PowerPoint, look at the transitions you have available, and kind of play around. And then you'll obviously end up choosing your favorites, the ones that you kind of use all the time. You'll develop your own style as you're working in PowerPoint. And you'll end up kind of picking the same transitions and setting them up the same way because you like that style. It fits the way that you present or the way that you want to be presented. So let me go here. Okay, so what we need to do is we're going to add in some transitions, and then we're going to start kind of playing around with how those transitions are. The different effects and how we can modify those transitions. So what we're going to do is we're going to between slides 1 and 2. So what happens is in order to put in a transition, what you need to do is you need to go to the second slide. So you need to go to the destination slide for the transition. So there's for every transition, there's an origin slide and there's the destination slide. So the origin slide is the first one that's visible on your screen. And then the destination slide is what's going to show up at the end of the transition. So you always want to kind of start in your destination slide. And we're going to put a fade transition. So this is in the exercise here. Let me show you. So this is here. We're right down here into step actually 9. We're actually in 10. So we're adding transitions between the slides. So we're going to do a fade transition between 1 and 2. We're going to do a wipe transition between 2 and 3. And then we're going to do a couple of the exciting ones. We're going to do the origami transition between 3 and 4, and we're going to do a wind transition between 4 and 5. Those are just kind of some of the more interesting ones. So between 1 and 2, I'm going to go to number 2 because it's my destination slide, and I'm going to choose, for my transitions up here, I'm going to choose fade. And it just showed it really quickly. If I do a preview, you can see it shows my initial slide here. And then when we get to here is that the other one kind of fades out and the other one fades in. It's a very, very fast transition. We'll affect that later on when we're tweaking kind of things. But what it does, if I go and do this here and such, you can kind of see. Actually, let me go in and play this quickly so you can kind of see. Let's go back. And I do this here. You can kind of see it, instead of it just being like a jump. Like see how these two slides here just jump from one to the other. This one here kind of gracefully kind of slides and fades into being there and such. It gives it a little bit more, in my opinion, like class, or just kind of, it's a more interesting transition from one slide to the other without it being too flashy or exciting on there. So between 2 and 3, we're going to do a wipe transition. So these are a fade and a wipe are two of the most classic types of transitions that you can do. And if you're taking my my video class, video editing class in a couple weeks, I'll be looking at those same type of transitions too, but in a video editing format there. But fades and wipes tend to be kind of the more common ones that happen. So I'm going to go into a wipe. And so what a wipe does is, as I mentioned, it's kind of like squeegees on, or it's like a paint roller rolling the second slide on top of the first slide. Between 3 and 4, we are going to put in an origami transition. So I'm going to come here. I'm going to open it up so I can see all my different transitions. And there's the origami one right there. And this might be something that's only available in the 365. It might still be available in 2016 and 2019. Let me know if you're not seeing it there. You can always choose another one of the transitions for this exercise. Origami. And so you can see what it does. And you can see it's a much more animated. It's much more distracting than what we see. Like if I go here, that wipe versus this here, which is kind of very drastic, very kind of in some ways I think distracting transition, but it's fun. That's why it's there. And then finally between 4 and 5, we are going to put in a wind transition. And then the exercise says that choose whatever transition you would like between 5 and the new slide you created before. So I'm just going to put in random bars. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so now I've put in a transition, and you'll notice over here on my slide kind of table of contents over here on the side, underneath each slide that has a transition now, there is the little transition, or what it does is indicating that there are animations. In this case, a transition is considered an animation on this slide. So that's just something to keep in mind, that if you're looking at a presentation that someone sent you, or you're working on something and you don't know if there's a transition or animation, there's a little icon indication that shows up underneath the numbers over here. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go look at kind of the different ways that we can modify the transitions. So when I go here to slide 2, where I had my transition, when I play this here, it plays through really quickly. And if I come here and I start my presentation and I go to the next slide, you can kind of see that fade happens really quickly. So one of the things that we can change when we change the transitions in PowerPoint is we can change the speed of the transition. And so if we look up here on the top right of the transitions tab on the ribbon, there's a timing up here. And so there's some things that we can kind of take a look at here. One of the things that we have is that there's a sound effect. You can add a sound effect that will play during the transition. We're not going to add it for this one here and such, but then there's also the duration. And so what the duration is this tells how long the transition is. So this one here is set for 0.7 seconds. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and we're going to actually make this here, let's make it 2 seconds. Let's make it a little bit longer. So now it's 2 seconds. And so now what happens when I play this presentation? Let's preview it. And you can kind of see now the fade is a little bit slower. You're able to see more of the previous slide, the slides overlapping each other as one fades into the other, because it takes longer. The duration of the fade, whereas before it was taking 0.7 seconds, now it's taking more than twice as long. What happens if I make it even longer? Let's see. 10 seconds. Let's preview. Now you can see it's a very slow transition that's happening. And so depending, again, it depends on the effect and how you want to present and what you want to show. You can decide on different durations. We're going to actually take this back down to 2 seconds because it's a little bit long. 10 seconds is too long because that's actually 2 seconds where you're just sitting there and you're waiting to go to the next slide. If you're standing up there presenting, that may not be exactly what you want to do. If it's something that you have playing on auto and you want to have that slow transition from one to the other, that's something that you can keep in mind. The other thing that I look at over here is the advanced slide. And what the advanced slide means is it tells how do we go to the next slide? How do we play the transition? And by default, it's on mouse click, which means that when you click the mouse, it goes to the next slide. If you're using a presentation remote, you click the next slide, it goes to the next slide. But you can also do kind of an automatic transition, so that what happens is that like if you have it set for let's go in and let's set this here for 5 seconds. Set that to 5 seconds. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to come here and we're going to go here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the next slide. And so we have our transition there. And now I'm going to sit there and wait. And after 5 seconds, it should go to the next slide. And so what happened was it wasn't me clicking the button or triggering the transition. It did it automatically. Now this slide here still has after the mouse click. So in order to go to the next slide, I have to click to have it go to my next slide and go to the transition there. So so that's what that kind of did. And I could have also clicked. Since I still have on mouse click turned on up here, I could have also clicked and it would gone to the next slide and played the next transition. We're going to turn that off right now. The third thing that you can do with the presentation, so we can change the duration, how long it takes. We can change how we move from one slide to the other, so what triggers the next transition, whether it's on a mouse click or after a certain amount of time. But we can also look at the different effect options and different. And the reason why I had us go in and do different transitions on all the different slides is to demonstrate that right here under the effect transitions, you get different effects depending on the transition that you chose. Subtle, more simple effects, like some of the subtle ones there and such, aren't going to have as many options. So for example, this one here either does smoothly or through black. So by default, it's set for smoothly, which means that it smoothly goes from one slide to the other. What through black means is that in the 2 seconds of the transition, it's going to fade to black and then from black come up to the new slide. And so that's actually really useful, that if like in your next slide, you're going to be presenting information that you don't want to have people see early, that you wanted to kind of have it come up as a surprise, you can do that fade to black. So let's take a look to see what that looks like. So, you know, like now it's 1 second. Let's make this a little longer. Let's make this 3 seconds. Just so we can kind of see how that plays. So when I hit play preview, you can see this goes to black and then it comes back and then shows the other presentation there. So what it does is instead of it showing one slide right into the other, there's almost like a third slide slipped into the middle, a black slide slipped in the middle, and it transitions to that black and then fades into the other one there. Let's go into the next one. This was our wipe presentation. And so let's make this a little longer. Let's do 4 seconds, just so you can kind of see how this wipe works. And you can kind of see this wipes in over from right to left. what kind of options do we have? So we open it up there and such, and so a wipe transition gives you the options of being able to basically say which direction the wipe happens in. So by default, it's coming in from the right, so it's going this way or this way. Yeah, whatever. You can see how it goes. So if I play it there, we can go from top to bottom. So if I do this here, you can see now it fades, and it always keeps changing the time here. So if I do it 4 again, we can kind of easily see it there. And so now it fades in or wipes from the top to the bottom. We can do diagonal wipes, so it comes in from the angle there. You can kind of do all those fun different kind of directions that you want to do. It's the kind of different things that we can kind of play around with. The next one, our origami transition. If this was the origami one, right? Yeah. So there's the origami transition. What effects do we have for this one here? It can either fly off to the right or it can fly off to the left. Those are kind of the different options you have there. So you can see, depending on the transition you have different options that you can kind of play around with. Our last one here was the wind. So I'm going to come up here, and again, we can either go from the right or we can go to the left. So we go here, and it just kind of blows the page off. Now, this is a good transition to maybe put in a sound effect. We want to kind of maybe the sound of the wind. So if I come up here to sound, and there is actually there's a breeze sound. So let's do this. And hopefully we'll be able to hear it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to preview this now. There we go. It played it. It was a little short. What happens if I do whoosh? Or no, there's actually a wind one. Let's play the wind one. There we go. So there's like a wind that blows, and then it kind of blows the page off. So you can have fun with your PowerPoint presentation. You can do these really exciting different transitions, and you can put sounds in them. You can make them longer. What it does is it just kind of adds a more dynamic nature to how you go from one slide to another when you're presenting. So yeah, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to give you about 3 minutes. Go into your own slide that you've done before, and so following the steps on the handout here, we're going to put a fade transition between slides 1 and 2. So what you're going to do is you're going to click on slide 2, go to the transitions tab. From the drop down, choose fade between 2 and 3. So you can go to page number 3. You're going to choose a wipe transition. Between 3 and 4, do an origami or something else, an exciting one, and then between 4 and 5, do like the wind transition on there. So take about 3 minutes to do that there, and then when we come back, we're going to be looking at animations and how to animate. So we've looked at animating the transitions between one slide to another. Now we're going to look at animating actually the different elements on the that are on your page there to kind of make them, again, dynamic, stand out, make it kind of really presentable. Take about 3 minutes and go put in those transitions. If you have any questions, please ask them in either the YouTube chat or the chat on the Online Tech web pages. All right, so I hope you have gotten some good practice playing around with transitions. So next we're going to move on to another way to kind of make your presentations very dynamic. And we're going to be looking at animations. So animations allow you to make an object on your slide appear, disappear, move, change size, or change color. There's several different types of animations that you can do, and we access them here by clicking on the animation tab on the ribbon up here. And let me actually need to select an item. So you can see it's all grayed out right now because there's nothing that's actually selected. There's 4 kind of main types of animation that are available. There's an entrance animation, which what it does is it shows how the object shows up on the slide. So this, like, the object itself has its own transition, so it can fade in, it can fly in, it can do. We'll kind of play around with some of those things and such. There's an emphasis animation, which what it does is it kind of makes that object kind of stand out from the rest of the items on the slide. There's an exit animation, which causes an object to leave a page. So something like that's very good if you want to have some points that you're like, okay, we're done with these here and such. And you can play the animation and they kind of fly off the page, that they're no longer there, no longer visible for the rest of during the rest of the time that slide is visible. And then there's motion paths, and motion paths allow you to actually like move an object from one place on the slide to another place on the slide. So you can do something very fun about, okay, we're gonna match these items together, and you can kind of have them all move down into like a table there. So some of the things that you can do with the different animations. So let's actually, so what we're doing is we're going to go to our slide that has the chart on it here. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to click on the object. I'm going to click on the chart. So this is now selected. Now you can see my animation ribbon up here has all lit up. And if I go and open this up here and such, you can see the variety of different animations. So the 4 different types of animations that we were seeing before. There's the entrance, and so you can see it can either just appear like that. It can fade in, so this is similar to the fades that we were seeing in the transitions. It can fly in. So fly in means it comes in really quickly. Float in means it's like a helium balloon that kind of just like floats into view. Split means that like all of a sudden it just kind of shows up, like it's like the curtains opening up. Wipes, shape, wheel. I mean, so there's a variety of different kind of things that we can do and such. There's emphasis tabs. So emphasis here, you can see some of them are grayed out because they don't apply to the object. PowerPoint, like other Microsoft Office software, is reasonably smart in that it's not going to offer you options that will not work for the object that you have. Here's our exit ones, which and you can see the exit ones here kind of match the same thing as the entrance ones. They just do it in the opposite direction. They're leaving instead of coming. And then the motion paths. So the motion paths allow you to kind of choose, and you can do things like lines, arches. You can make things come in circles, loops. And there's more effects. There's things that are available that you can download from Microsoft if you wanted to. So we're going to start off. We're going to just do a very simple. We want to emphasize this chart here, and we're going to do a pulse. We're going to see what the pulse animation looks like on our slide here. So what I've done again is I've clicked on my graph. So I've clicked on the graph and selected it. I'm going to come up here in my animations tab on my ribbon. I'm going to open this up and I'm going to choose pulse. And so now what happens is what happens when I play this. And you can see the whole graph just kind of like pulses. It's like as I'm talking and I hit it, it starts on click. So let's actually take a look. So what happens is the slide opens up. And so this was the slide I had fade in. And now when I click, as I'm talking, okay, and this is the graph that we want to see. Click, and it pulses that graph. So you can actually time the animation as you're speaking. You can click the mouse and it'll kind of trigger it happen. Or you can actually have it trigger at a certain time on there too. You can actually have it trigger on the click of other things. So I can actually have it if I clicked on, say, title up here. I can make it happen on there. There's a lot of different things you can do. If I go with previous, so then what happens is that let's make this here 3 seconds, and let's play this and see what happens. And so then after 3 seconds, it should pulse. So what happened was I set it that after the previous animation being that wipe in, and then it waited 3 seconds, and then it played the animation. So you can kind of set those. You can kind of like time things. So if you wanted to have like a whole series of animations, you can kind of time them with the order that they're going. If I open up the animation pane here, you can kind of see the animations. You can actually like reorder them here. So actually, if I do, what I can do is I can do something really fun here. Let's do pulses. Hold on. What I'm going to do, we're going to remove this one. What I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this blue. Let's see if I can make this work. If that, no, it's going to do the whole thing. Okay, I was hoping I could make like the different bars themselves actually pulse, but it doesn't look like I'll be able to do that. There are probably ways that you can kind of do that as well too. I highly encourage experimentation. We just don't really have the time for it in tonight's class. So let's take a look. Now we have the pulse here. Let's look at the effect options. Just like with the transitions, we had different options that we can do to effect. So what happens is, so here's the answer to what I was trying to do. So right now you can actually choose the sequence that the animation happens. Right now it's set as one object, which means that the whole chart, the whole graph is going to pulse as one. But I can also do pulsing by, say, series. And so what it does, it pulses the whole thing, and then it pulses each of the different series in turn. I can do by category. And so there's the different categories, depending on how you want this, how you're presenting this information on here. Effect option by element and series. And so now we're talking about the blue ones, now we're talking about the orange ones, and now we're talking about the gray ones as it goes through. And then we can do by element in category. So talking about that, now we're talking about category 2. So you can see there's like a whole series that these effect options will only show up when we're looking at a graph that has all these different elements in it. If I had something simpler, like just a picture, and we put in a pulse, you can see actually my effect options don't light up because there's only one object. There aren't any options to provide for the pulse on this one here. Okay, so let me just remove that because I don't want to do that there. Remove. So we go back to this, and you can see, so what I've done, I've also looked at and gone here, is that there's this animation pane that shows all the animations for the page. It also shows what place. So what happens is by choosing, what did I choose? I chose the by element in a category. There's actually 13 different animations I've put into the queue there. So the first one, so we play it again. First one pulses the whole graph. Now suppose I did not want to pulse the whole graph. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually remove that one. So now when I play it, actually hold on. Stop. What did you do? What are you doing? You are category 1. Okay, yep. So now when I play it, now it will just do the different elements there instead of pulsing the whole thing at once. So you can see you can modify. I can change the order of things. So if I move you, oh, come on. Can I change the order of these? Effect options. Okay, so I can actually time. So you can see there's a lot that's going on. Here's the chart animation, all the different kind of things that are in there and such. Sometimes you can actually like rearrange the order of these. Since this is all a group of animations, I can actually go here and we'll make you fade in. And so now you can see I actually have two different. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually move you up. I can't. Oh, there we go. There we go. I'm doing it the wrong place. I can't drag. I have to use the little up and down arrows up here. I apologize. As I mentioned, that's not something I do all the time, so I always have to kind of refresh myself with that there. So even if I go in here and open this up, I can then. Okay, so I can't actually change within the group. But now what happens is when I play this, it'll do that, and then it'll play the individual pieces there. Let's move on. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to look at some of the other animations and things that we kind of play around with. So we're going to go to slide 4. And we have our image here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on it, and we are going to do a wipe animation. So we're going to actually have it wipe into place. I'm going to choose wipe. And when I go in and look at the effect options, you can see I can wipe from the bottom, from the left, from the right. We're going to go from the right. There we go. So this is like that wipe transition that we saw before. And what I can do is I can make it last longer if I want to. So let's make it last 2 seconds. And so now if I play it, you can now see I get this kind of nice slow wipe of the image kind of coming in. So you can see the different directions. The final thing the final animation that we're gonna look at is we're gonna come down here. I'm gonna look at a text, and so we've looked at kind of some like graphics-based thing, like what we can do here in with a chart. We can kind of do that fun kind of pulse each of the different scenes. If it was a line graph, we could actually pulse the different lines. You can do some interesting things with images. You can do. We looked at the entrance there. We did a wipe in, but we can also do something, say like a shape. And we can change the shape, so we can make it like a diamond. You can see now a diamond kind of comes in. We can make it go out, so it starts the diamond kind of going out. So you can do these kind of fun things like a wheel. So it does that whole kind of circular kind of thing. You can change the directions, or rather, so you can have a lot of fun with these animations and kind of choose where they come in and work with. But you can also do things with. You can also change things with the with text as well too. So what we're going to do is we're going to choose the text box, and we're going to give it the font color animation. So when I open this up here, where's that? You can see now. Remember before when I was looking at the chart, and all of these here were kind of grayed out. So let's go back to here, and if I choose this here and I open this up, you can see all the different grade animations. These are ones that cannot apply to a chart or graph. Let's go into the image, and I select the image there. You can see once again there's like 6 of them there that don't work with the image. I can do darken, lighten. I can do some more that I could not do with the chart or graph, but I still can't do all of them. When I come here and look at the text, I'm going to click on this here and open this up. I now have access to all these. So I can do pulses, I can do color pulses, I can do a bunch of different things, but I can also have some text-based animations. So what we're going to do is we're going to choose font color in this case. And what happens is that we're going to choose, okay, so let's do by paragraph, and let's make it green. And so now you can see that it's now pointing each of the different points when it plays. So when I play this, it goes through and it colors that, and then colors that, and then colors that. And actually, if I do, we can make it last long. We can make it go shorter. So if I do that there, it goes a little bit faster. And you can see actually I can either time it. So I can do all those different kind of things that are available on there. And then if I decided I didn't want this animation, if I play it and I decide, okay, this really isn't what I wanted to do, I select my graph here, or my text, and I can come up and I can just choose the none up here at the top. And that will just remove the animation. There just isn't an animation that's available on there. So, but you can also do it by individual. So I did it by selecting the whole box there, and it applied it to every single one. But if I go in and just select, say, 0.1 and come in and let's give it a font color, you can see now that the animation only affects 0.1. I can then come in and say do 0.2 and add that one a font color, and we'll make this one this color. And so now when I preview, it will color 1, and then it will color the next one. And then I could do the same thing with like 0.3 if I wanted to. I can then so I can either look at the individual points, I can do the text as a whole, I can have the text pull in the different paragraphs, which is 0.1 and 0.1, these two underneath, and this one here would be kind of a paragraph, and that one there's a paragraph underneath. So this is all something that it does take some time to kind of just go in, sit down, play around with it, so put together your presentation. So this is something that you do when you're near the end, when you're kind of ready to present. So what you've done to kind of through the process up to this point is that when you're sitting down and doing a PowerPoint presentation, is you're going to figure out your design. You're going to choose the theme that you want to do, the font, the colors, where things are, the layouts. You can either use the pre-built stuff that Microsoft Office has, which makes things really convenient because they'll give you a good variety of well-designed PowerPoint presentation themes, but you can also go in and modify them so you can change the colors, you can put in colors that you want. You can also design new layouts using the Slide Master. Or what you can do is you can find a theme that's close to what you have, open up the Slide Master, and then edit it to match what you want to have. Once you've chosen the design and figure out the design, then you'll go through and start building your slides. So you'll go and create a new slide using the different layouts that you have in your theme, and you'll start putting in your content. And then once you have all your content in, then you'll kind of go through the slides one by one, and you'll figure out, okay, how do you want to transition from one slide to another? So you'll look at the transitions, and do you want to animate information on each of those slides? And so that's where it kind of takes some time, is you want to figure out how you want to animate things. Think about how you're going to be presenting that presentation when you're presenting it. Are you going to want to accentuate certain points? So when you're talking, it's like, okay, now we want to do point 1. And when you say point 1, you can click, you can have it activate, and then this here will change color or light up or pulse at that point to kind of accentuate, to kind of emphasize that that's what you're talking about at that point. When you get to point 2, you can click again and make, actually, so like I was talking about pulses. Let's change you to a pulse. Pulse. Okay, and let's change you to a pulse. And finally, let's change you to a pulse as well, just to kind of demonstrate kind of what I'm saying here. So now if I go in and present, so here we go. I'm talking blah, 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 blah. I get to point 1. Now I'm going on talking about point 1. Now we're done talking about point 1. I'm going to talk about point 2. Boom. It emphasizes, it pulses point 2. Now I'm talking about point 3. Boom. It pulls out and makes point 3. And you could do things like, I could do something like, say, like an entrance animation. Instead of it being, so what I can do is I can do, say, something like this. Instead of making it a pulse, we can make it fly in. And let's fly in from the right. And then let's make you fly in from the left. Just have some fun with this here. Just kind of show kind of the way that you can kind of use these different animations. We're going to do a fly in, and you know what we'll do? We will fly in from the top right. All right, so now this slide, now it's even, so now we go through and we're on to test page 4. This is what I'm presenting here. And now I'm going to talk about point 1, and here's point 1. And then here's point 2, and here's point 3. I don't know why all those other things came in at the same time, but I really kind of wanted those to come in with that. But yeah, so you can kind of see, like, you can kind of make it so that you could, I started off with a, if I go back a slide, I started off with a blank slide that when I started talking, and then I brought in the information using presentations as I was talking. And then I moved to the next slide here. So that's the way that you can use animations to kind of really, and transitions to really kind of jazz up and kind of emphasize the way that you're presenting. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to give you about 5 minutes. Go into your own, follow the exercises on the exercise sheet here. We're at the bottom of page 1 and going on to the top of page 2. Go in and add in some animations. Play around with the animations with the different types, the different content types on the slides. Make sure to play around with some of the durations up here, and play around with the effect options for the ones that you chose. If you have any questions, please ask them in the chat, and then when we get back, we'll spend the end of this class, we'll be looking at the presenter view, and I will need to make sure that you can see the presenter view on the screen here. But yeah, so take about 5 minutes, and let me know if you have any questions. All right, so since I'm not seeing any questions, let's move on to the final topic for tonight's class, where we are going to be looking at presenter view. So to, oh, that's right, okay. To kind of give a quick overview of kind of what we've kind of conceptually, kind of what we've looked at here, the basic in PowerPoint class last week looked at kind of just the elements of building content onto your PowerPoint presentation. This class here, we've looked at we've looked at kind of the idea of like the overall design of the presentation, as well as ways of kind of emphasizing or accentuating elements on your presentation, whether it be the transitions from one slide to another, or different elements, different content pieces on your slide. I've also talked a little bit about kind of the whole picture thinking that you should do when you go into PowerPoint when you're designing a presentation. Now, again, a lot of this stuff doesn't apply if you're just throwing stuff together for a very quick presentation that you're going to be giving in 20 minutes. That's going to be like 5 minutes long. You don't have to get too fancy. You don't have to sit down and outline and plan and do all these fancy transitions. But if you're doing a big professional presentation before like your entire company or at a conference, you might want to just spend some time doing in the animations. Because the thing is by doing that, there also helps you think about how you're going to be presenting. So the idea of like how you're behaving, you're acting when you're talking, how you're moving from one slide to another, how information's showing up on the screen, whether you want to have people focused on what's showing up on the screen or focused on you and what you're saying. So we've kind of thought about all that kind of things. It's something that takes practice. It's something that's going to take it takes experience to do. I'm not perfect at it. There are people who are very, very good at it there. But it's just take in, practice, time, have fun with it. The final thing we're looking at do now is that last week I did show how when you're presenting, how to get into the slideshow view and kind of do the presenting. What I'm going to show today is we're going to be looking at the presenter view. And so what the presenter view is a way to view your presentation with speaker notes on one computer while only the slides appear on the screen that the audience sees, whether the screen is like a television monitor or a computer monitor or a screen there's a projector projecting to it. So let's go in and see how we get to the presenter view. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my slideshow tab up here. And you'll notice right over here towards the right on the ribbon here, there's a section here where it says monitors. And what happens is I can tell it to like which monitor to use. Now, most people, if you're working on a laptop or you're working on your desktop computer, most people have one monitor. I actually happen to have, if I open this up, you'll actually see I actually happen to have 3 monitors, which is the reason why you also see me kind of looking up to the sides as I'm presenting, as I'm talking to you. And that's because I'm checking things like I'm checking whether there's any comments. I'm checking to see how my feed is looking to make sure that you're seeing what I want you to see. So I have multiple, but this is also would apply that if I plugged my computer into like a projector that's then being projected up onto a screen, that projector is going to show up as another monitor. So it's going to show up as like one of these monitors here. So I can choose what monitor the presentation shows up on, whether it shows up on my computer screen or whether it shows up on the projector screen. And then right underneath is this checkbox that says presenter view. And so now what happens is when I do presenter view, what it's going to do is what it should do right now is it should put the presenter view on my main monitor, which is the screen that you're seeing on this video. And then what happens is then it will show the slides, so the non-presenter view, the actual presentation view on the other monitor. So let's see what happens when I click this here. I'm going to click from beginning, and nope, it didn't do it. Haha. Okay, so let's put you up to here, and from beginning. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so now we got presenter view. So what I've done now is I have the presentation being shown on another screen. And then what you're seeing here on this screen here is you're seeing what presenter view looks like. So let's take a kind of a quick look at kind of some of the stuff that this is showing me on here. So this is a very, very useful view for when you're presenting. And I really highlight, if you're going to be using PowerPoint, learn how to use this because it will just make you a better presenter using PowerPoint. So first thing we have right here is we have this box right here, which is actually the current slide that's being viewed. This is the slide that's being presented out to the screen elsewhere. And you know what I should do the next time I do this is I should have it do like a picture-in-picture, so you can kind of see the presenter view, and then you can kind of see what the screen is doing. I can design a layout and kind of show that there. But for right now, just imagine that what the other screen is seeing is just what's inside this box here. Over here on the right, we have the next slide. So what this does is this allows you to kind of prepare yourself as you're presenting. You have an idea of what the next slide is going to look like and what's there, so that you're able to, you know what's coming up as you're presenting. That is, you're not all of a sudden surprised if a different slide shows up than what you were expecting. Down here we have notes. Now I haven't really talked much about the notes before. Let me just end this quickly and I'll show you. Is down at the bottom of every screen on here, on every slide, is this little section to add notes. So if I come here and we're going to do notes for the title slide, these will show up in the presenter view, just to kind of have some notes there and such. Now if I go back in and play from the beginning, so we see that. So now you can see right over here, notes for the title slide. These will show up in the presenter view. So I'm able to put those notes in there so that when I'm presenting, again, my viewers are only seeing this little box right here, whereas I am seeing everything here. So I'm able to see my notes. They're not seeing my notes. They're not seeing my next slide. So I'm able to see that there. So it allows you to have the tool. You can actually have notes for the different slides as you're presenting without having to have like pages or something separate that you're kind of fumbling. You can just have everything right there, because sometimes it can be kind of difficult. You're on a podium, especially if it's a small podium. You have your computer sitting there, and then you have a bunch of paper notes. And it juggles around, the notes all come across, and so by this way you can kind of keep everything organized, keep everything connected, and you just have your computer that you're working with there. Okay, so what else are we looking at here? We can increase the size of the notes. So if it's a little bit harder to read, you're sitting there, your screen's a little small, you can make it bigger to make it easier to read. If these went down, you can actually scroll through the different notes. You'll be able to kind of scroll and see it on there. Down here, okay, so let's look at the top of the box up here. So one thing you have up here is the time. So that's very useful if you're speaking and you have a time limit, or you need to know that you need to end by a certain time. So I'm looking at it right now and it's saying it's 8:36 p.m. I have 24 minutes before the scheduled end of this class, so I need to kind of cover. We are going to probably end early tonight, so just so you know, I'm not going to be sitting here talking about this stuff for the next 20 minutes. Yawn, I know. So, but I can see the time there, and so it's something that you can kind of keep track of. Sometimes if you're in a presentation situation, you're not going to have a clock visible. You're not going to have your phone where you can pull it out and look at the time, or your watch without it looking kind of obvious that I'm going to be looking at my watch. So they make that kind of easily available. Over here on the top left, you have a timer that tells you how long you've been speaking. So sometimes not having the time there is enough. Sometimes you know, okay, I have 10 minutes to speak. And so now this up here is telling me I've been in presenter view talking for over 2 minutes. I have 8 minutes left to go. So this allows you to kind of keep track of your own time, and you can pause the timer. So if you're say talking and you need to pause because something happens, or you want to do like an activity or exercise kind of thing, or you can also restart it back to the beginning on there. But it's a timer is one of those things that's useful when you're presenting if you have a specific time limit. Moving down, we have, if you remember, when we did the slide presentation before, we looked at some of the different tools that were down below. And so some of the things that you have there is you have like a pen or a laser pointer. So now I can do like a laser pointer, and this will show up on the screen that the audience is seeing where this is pointed. So I'm talking about the title and the details over here. If I move it over to here, they're not seeing that, but I bring it onto here, they're able to see that information. Or I can do something like draw a pen, and I can say, okay, we're going to do this, and I want you to emphasize this, question mark, exclamation point, smiley face. That was a horrible smiley face. There we go. That's a much better smiley face. So you can actually then draw onto the slides. And again, your audience is going to see those drawings on on there. So this is a way that you can kind of interact with your slides dynamically as you're presenting, kind of showing off to people beyond just, so if you're presenting and there was like something that comes up that you really want to kind of point out a point that you didn't think about when you're doing the design, so you didn't do an animation, you can go in and draw that there. We have things like see all slides. And once again, the audience is only still seeing this first slide that I'm on, but this allows you to see all the slides and then say jump specifically to the one that you want to do. And now they're seeing this slide. I'm going to turn this off. Turn it off. So now they're just seeing this slide here. So it allows you that, say I'm here talking on page 4, and I'm talking. Remember my animations that I put in? As I'm talking, it's showing those there and such. Oh wait, I need to go back. There's something I need to talk about in a previous slide. Boom. Now remember this graph when I was talking about this graph here, and these different points. So I was able to pull open the thumbnails and jump right back to the graph, or right back to the slide that I was able to do. But it was all hidden. Like the audience was not. They're not seeing this screen. They're just still seeing the last slide that I was on. So it allows you to kind of very subtly jump slides. So if I'm looking here and I realize this isn't the next slide that I want to be talking about, instead I want to be talking about the slide with the picture on it, I can come here and click on the picture. And so then when I move to it, we're now talking and showing about the picture on there. So it allows you some subtle tools to kind of help cover your bases as you're presenting. There's things like a black slide. So what this does is this blacks it out. So if you're say before the presentation begins, you want to have your PowerPoint presentation, but you don't want to see people seeing it there. Or if say you have people doing like a breakout activity and you want to open up the next slide that maybe has some of the answers to the breakout activity, you can then black this out there so that they're only seeing a black screen. And then when you're ready to speak again, you can click on it. And then, so if I do this and then I can say jump to here, whoops, that didn't work. I can then black it out. And then it will then show the slide going on there. There's things like subtitles. My version of PowerPoint here actually has live subtitling, live captioning. And so I can turn that on and it will start playing the presentation on this, and that will show on the screen that's being sent to the audience, that the audience is seeing there too. So it's a good way to kind of, for people who might be hearing impaired in your audience, you can put this kind of captioning on there and such. And I believe Office 365 has it, and then Office 2019, I believe, also has it too. And then finally, there's just kind of some menu here to be able to, you can either hide presenter view, so then you're just seeing what the slide is that you're presenting on there. You can have a black screen, white screen on there. There's the taskbar, which, what does this do? Okay, the taskbar brings up the taskbar for Windows. So if I needed to say jump to, I'm doing my presentation, and I needed to jump to, say, my a website on there and such, I can then jump over to the website and kind of see this here. The screen is still, the screen that's being shown is still the last slide that I was on. So the presentation, so what happens is the presenter view is taking over the screen there. So it's a very useful kind of tool to have. It allows you to kind of do a lot of things behind the scenes, kind of present stuff, kind of give you more tools as a presenter, while everybody else just sees your presentation. Yep, so that is everything I think I have covered on here. The last thing I just want to kind of indicate, there's also a zoom function. So let's jump back to let's jump back to this slide here. And if I do zoom, I can then zoom in, and this will zoom in. This again will show to the audience kind of the specific section that you can do. So those are the things that the different presentations can do on there. I can then swap, so you can kind of see this is what the audience is seeing. So they're seeing that zoomed in view here. If I unzoom, they're seeing the normal there. I'm going into my all pictures view, and I'm going back to my title screen. You can see, so I was able to jump through very quickly on there. Let's swap, there we go. So I'm back to showing you the presenter view on here. So that's intermediate Microsoft PowerPoint there. We've looked at, I'm going to end the slideshow. I'm going to discard my notations. So we've looked at things. We've looked at how to do, how to affect the master slides and the layout masters, which affect the entire presentation. We've looked at transitions and animations, so ways to accentuate and emphasize your presentation and the points that you want to make in your presentation. And then finally, we looked at the presenter view and the different tools that PowerPoint gives you as a presenter to make your presentation as smooth as possible while you're giving it there. So I want to thank you for joining me tonight. The last thing I just want to kind of cover is I want to show, we're going to go to our handout here. And if you notice at the last page on the handout, and I'm going to just make this bigger so we can all see it. If you want to continue your study and practice with Microsoft PowerPoint, the Ferguson Library provides access to the Udemy learning site for all of its members. So what you want to do is you want to click this, or either click this link if you have the downloaded handout here, or go to this website is also available on our Ferguson Library website. You will need to enter in your library card number first, and then you will need to sign in with a Google or Microsoft account in order to access Udemy, and that's just the way that they kind of keep track of your progress in the courses that you're doing. I've highlighted several courses here that that kind of continue the learning of what we covered here in the class. So if you're interested in kind of continuing your learning in Microsoft PowerPoint or any of the Microsoft Office software, I highly recommend checking out Udemy through the Ferguson Library. So I will hang around for another few minutes to see if there's any questions. You can either ask them in the YouTube chat, or you can ask them in the chat box on the online-tech-classes website here. Also, I would appreciate if you would go and complete the survey. So on this website here, there's a survey link here, and this will actually take you to this page here, projectoutcome.org/en/52210. And what this is just a brief 5-question survey that just kind of, for 5 or 6 questions, I think it might be 6, just kind of asks how you thought about this class and ways that we can kind of improve, or other things that we can offer to you as our Ferguson Library community. So I'll hang around for a few more questions. Please let me know if you have any. You can ask them in either of the chats, and I thank you very much. I hope you join me next week, Tuesday, October 20th, from 7 to 9. I will be doing Microsoft Office Integrated, which will look at, here it is, you're looking at the different parts of Microsoft Office, how they can be used together. So how we can use Excel, Word, and PowerPoint to be more productive. So with that, thank you very much, and hope you have a good night. All right, I'm not seeing any questions, so thank you for anybody who attended, and I hope to see you again next week. So with that, I bid you adieu and have a good evening.